Hello, I did promise I was coming back, and here I am with my trusty phone, and we have a new story series. In fact, I think we have two from Brianna, and as she was so amazing and did keep in touch with me, checking in every so often just to make sure I was okay, because literally from Christmas I just disappeared. It has been a crazy year, but here we are. It's nearly Halloween. I am wearing my Wanna Go Buy Spooky Stuff t-shirt again. I have a couple of really cool t-shirts for Halloweeny sort of stuff, and I'm looking for something that can just be my reading reading Reddit story stuff anyway. So we are gonna do the first in Salt in the Wound. So get yourself a drink, maybe a snack, and let's hunker down for the first in this chapter. I don't even know what it's about, how many episodes there are in this, but I'm so excited to get stuck in. So let's give it a go. Fresh start. I had made up my mind. I was moving to Alaska. My family didn't get it, and neither did my job when I handed in my resignation. But honestly, I couldn't care less. For the first time in a long while, I was making a decision for me, just me. 7 years as a wildlife photographer had given me a front row seat to some of the most incredible landscapes on the planet. I got paid to chase the light and capture moments most people only dream of. I wouldn't trade that for anything. But the truth is, what I loved most wasn't the fame or the paycheck, it was the isolation. The wilderness, the feeling of being small in a world so big it humbles you. That's why, after years of roaming the wilds for work, I decided to take the leap. I sold everything I didn't need and saved every penny. Then I bought a small plot of land off the grid, completely removed. There were animals to photograph, landscapes to explore, and solitude to savour. The difference now was that it would be on my own time and by my own rules. I wouldn't be reporting to anyone or rushing through my shots. No deadlines, just me, the land, and the quiet. I packed up everything, my hiking gear, camping equipment, all my cameras, and all the off-grid essentials. I shipped it all off to Alaska, and then with one final breath, I booked my flight. The airport I landed in was smaller than I expected. One of those airports where you don't bother looking at the signs because they're unnecessary. After a short wait, I was on another plane, this one barely bigger than a glorified propeller, and it took me about 45 miles out to where my new life would begin. When I arrived, I was surprised to see that the mobile home company was already getting to work. They'd already set up the foundation and the truck was unloading everything fast. They worked with a quiet efficiency. I just stood back and watched as they moved my new home into place. It felt real now. This wasn't some dream or distant plan. This was happening. Once the workers were done, I spent the next few days unloading my stuff and setting up. I set up the generator without a hitch, and I got the satellite dish set up with minimal fuss. It wasn't a perfect system, but it was enough. I had everything I needed, and most of it didn't require electricity. The land was better than I had hoped. It was just as wild and quiet as I imagined, surrounded by trees with a creek running through the property and the wildlife preserve just beyond the tree line. I'd made sure to buy land that was close to that, for the photo opportunities, of course, but also because I needed to feel like I was truly out there, alone. The next few weeks went by in a blur of hard work. I chopped firewood, set up a few traps, built a small shed to store the tools, and started planning my first hunt. The constant quiet was something I was still adjusting to, but I loved it. There were no honking cars, no traffic, and no annoying neighbours. Just the occasional song of a bird or the rustling of the trees in the wind. I went into town one afternoon to grab some supplies, and I could feel people staring from every direction. Most of the people here have lived here for generations. I'm sure they weren't used to seeing a new face. They looked at me like I was an outsider, and, well, I was. But I didn't mind. I didn't come here to make friends. The sun went under the horizon, and I went home swiftly with everything I needed. Canned goods, extra gear, and some small things I hadn't realised I was missing. I spent the evening cleaning and decorating, taking my time, trying to make it feel more like home. It was already starting to. By the time the first chill hit, I had most of the essentials squared away. It was still early in the season, but the weather report said winter was coming in faster than expected. I wasn't worried. If anything, it gave me a sense of purpose, a quiet excitement. I was prepared. I'd hunted in harsher conditions before. It would be different, but it would be manageable. Life up here isn't glamorous, but it didn't have to be. It was survival. I was good at it. The days grew shorter and the nights colder. I felt it in my bones. I welcomed it. I loved the cold. I loved how it made me feel alive, sharp, awake. It was November now, and I decided to go out for one last hunt, one last hike, before I get snowed in. I suited up in my gear, packed my bag, grabbed my rifle, and I headed out. The climb up the mountain never got old. The landscape was breathtaking. Trees glistening with ice, the ground covered with a thin sheet of snow that crunched underfoot. Birds fluttered overhead, shaking the frost from their wings and sending it shimmering through the air like diamonds. They sang their praises, and for a brief moment I felt a quiet gratitude too. The land was at peace, and so was I. God was pleased. I paused for a second to take it all in, letting the stillness fill my lungs, and then I started up the mountain again. That's when my radio buzzed to life. Severe and dangerous blizzard expected in the next hour. Be prepared. Head home now. Well, that was just perfect. An hour into my hike and now I had to turn round. It wasn't the end of the world, just a reminder of how quickly things could change out here. I retraced my steps and was making good time, but everything changed when the storm hit. The wind surged violently, and within moments I couldn't see a thing. The sky darkened, swallowing the light. The birds had stopped singing, and the only sound was the howl of the wind, raw and furious. The trees were bending, thrashing their branches, snapping, ice flinging off like shards of glass, piercing my face. It was like a kiss of death. I slipped. There was no warning. 1 second I was moving forward, the next I was falling. The ground gave way beneath me and I tumbled down into a narrow ravine. My leg was trapped between two jagged rocks, pinning me in place. I stopped moving immediately. My breath caught in my chest. The pain was instant, sharp, deep and brutal. I tried to pull my leg free, but it wouldn't budge. The rocks seemed to grip tighter, digging into flesh. I tugged harder, panic rising in my throat, but every movement made it worse. The pain intensified, shooting up through my leg like fire, ripping through muscle and bone. Blood started to pour, hot and slick, dripping down my leg and hands. I tried to scream, but the wind swallowed it whole. My breath was coming in ragged gasps, my head swimming. The storm raged around me, but all I could feel was the crushing, relentless pain in my leg. I couldn't see straight. My vision went dark, and at the edges then everything blurred. The cold, the wind, the pain, they all fused together. I tried to move again, but I couldn't. And then I passed out. Oh my goodness, that was a brilliant first episode. I am so excited to see what is to come. We really don't know much about this person. We don't know anything about their family, their friends. We don't even know their name. All we know is the job that they have done all these years, and they want to be isolated. We don't know why they want to be isolated really either. But I'm kind of getting misery vibes from this here. You know, somebody's going to come along and save them. But I'm very excited by this here. I am going to shoot over to the next episode already and record it. If you enjoy this kind of setup, watching while I read to you, then don't forget to subscribe and hit that wee bell so that you can get notified whenever I upload new episodes. And I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.